our players in the upper left. In the red, we have
Grandmaster Wongjin Star Soulkey.
And in the bottom right, his opponent, the underdog, in the blue. He is
Master Root YuGiOh.
And just so you guys know, this doesn't refer to their ladder ranks. I know that we call that Grandmaster and Master, but I assure you that YuGiOh is a Grandmaster player. I assure you.
Prove it, Artosis.
Yeah, I guess I have to prove
it.
I guess I have to go find which barcode Zerg he is up in that top 200.
Now, this is a one-on-one map, so they do know the opposing player's starting locations, or opposing player, I should say. So, you know, it's going to be a map where I think you're right, Artosis. I think we're going to have a lot of aggression. Again, if you're just now joining us, I know we have a lot of people just now tuning in here, as the internet is kind of catching word that we're doing this here at GoMTV.net, covering this tournament. This is a best of one.
Yeah.
And I can't emphasize that enough, because if you're used to watching Artosis and me, and I'm sure some of you guys watching are, you're used to us casting best of threes here. So
that's
definitely keep that in mind. It's going to require completely different play styles.
Yeah, and it's actually in many ways very interesting. You can't actually look at it and say this is completely inferior, because best of ones do exist. Winning a single game is an important skill to have. And of course, playing a best of three, the better player more often grinds that out, which does make this more volatile. You do have to admit that, but it's still a very interesting tournament format, which we can learn some different things from than we would in a best of three.
Yeah, absolutely true. It's a totally different beast, you could say.
Yeah. Now, Soulkey and YuGiOh both opening up with Hatch first. And one thing I have noticed from Soulkey is that in Zerg vs. Zerg, when he opens Hatch first, he's more likely to go very aggressive Ling-Baneling with speed.
Yeah.
Not the Baneling with speed, but the Ling with speed.
The Ling with speed, absolutely. All right, so their overlords are both going to get in here. They will get out before the Queen can come out to provide some anti-air here. That's actually one of the biggest differences in ZVZ from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2. This actually fixed a little bit of history for you guys. This is actually what fixed Zerg versus Zerg in StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
Was that the Zerg actually got an accessible overlord? I mean, excuse me, an accessible anti-air that could be used to drive out the overlord that also had an economic function, so there was a reason to want to get it.
Yeah.
Because in Zerg vs. Zerg in StarCraft 1, you kept the overlord over their base the entire time.
You literally would just see like, oh, you made an extra drone.
All right, I have to make an extra drone.
Yeah. Or 2 extra drones, perhaps.
Yeah. Or he's going to make a hatch, and then, you know, eventually both guys go 3 hatches.
Very slim margins existed in Zerg vs. Zerg in StarCraft 1. But in StarCraft 2 with the Baneling Nest, there are definitely some bigger margins, bigger room for error on both sides.
Absolutely. Okay. Now we got the Baneling's Nest in the front here for YuGiOh. That's a good way to set up a little obstruction at the entrance, so it's not as easy to get in. You can use your queens around that too, or put a spine crawler up, something that can make more of a wall so you can have some kind of crowd control if your base does get attacked early on.
And take a look at the production tab, because you can see that they are basically playing exactly the same, and when you see something different, that's when it's important, because otherwise, I mean, they're doing the same thing, it doesn't matter. And we do see just a few extra lings being made by both, but look, it's 4 versus 6 being made, so really the differences here are so minute.
Yeah, pretty marginal here. All right, well, it looks like we're going to have these one ling at least get inside of here. That is pretty huge.
Yeah, gets to, well, it doesn't get that much scouting, but at least you can see that there's no layer on both sides. On the other hand, Soulkey gets a little bit better scout, and it looks like he's going to save one or perhaps both of these Zerglings. So the tiniest little advantage going to Soulkey right there.
It's pretty tough to stop at least one of those Zerglings from getting inside of the base.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a nice job by him back there. And as you can see here, okay, he's going to put down 2 evolution chambers here. This creates, again, more of an obstruction here at the entrance, which can allow the queens and the few Zerglings and Banelings to block off anything else that's going to be coming inside.
Well, Soulkey is going up to the lair a lot quicker. After actually scouting what was going on in YuGiOh's base, he decided that he was safe to tech up, and he was absolutely right. YuGiOh getting the double evolution chamber tells us he's probably going to stay on Roach Tech. But will we see mutas out of Soulkey? That's the question.
Yeah, that is the big question. We're going to find out in a little bit here. Now, he's trying to do some damage to these drones, not very effective. And it looks like, again, this Ling will get inside the main base here and scout that extractor for just being made. And the same story over here for YuGiOh. He does spot that layer being produced.
A lot of information gathered on both sides there. It's too bad for Soulkey couldn't stop that one Ling, because seeing that the layer is up at that time, or at least is still morphing at that time, is really going to make him think that this is very possibly going to be Mutalisks.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. And it looks like the response there for Soulkey, from all that intel he got there, was to go ahead and get a third hatchery up here. 1-1, range attack and carapace coming here for YuGiOh.
Yeah.
So these guys are both going in completely different teching paths.
Yeah. When that layer's done, I do expect that we'll see some roach speed being gotten so that he can actually move around the map. Possibly a Hydralisk Den going up right away. It's a little bit harder to use Infestors immediately against mutas right now, but if you get enough spores, it's possible. So we'll have to see what YuGiOh wants to do. Does he get hyper-aggressive against Aspire, or does he turtle it up a bit and wait for his roach numbers to really build?
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. It looks like these Lings are going to try to come down here and do force a cancel. Now these Banelings over here will try to zone out the Zerglings here of YuGiOh.
Oh! And an okay Baneling so far. The single one does get sniped by those roaches, and it looks like YuGiOh should be able to hold this easy peasy, no problem whatsoever.
Yep, it looks like both of them will get their third bases up uncontested.
Yeah, and we do have the Roach Horn going up for Soulkey after he starts 9 mutas, so he is going to transition out. Nowadays, with the new Spore Crawler buff, you don't stay on mutas all game normally.
Yeah,
maybe if your opponent goes mutas too, but
there's a point in time where mutas are out of style, and you can't really make them work for that much longer.
Yeah, and YuGiOh is getting those Spore Crawlers just in the nick of time, so
looks
he should
like
be fine.
Soulkey is going to try to come in here and potentially force another cancel, but I think with the number of Banelings and Roaches that we see there right now, it's not going to be a good option.
Yeah, we do have also right now Soulkey going for the Infestation Pit just slightly behind YuGiOh. So he is going to be behind a little bit on that ground army, but at least he has some map control to make up for it. He has a lot of Lings out there, and the Mutalisks will make sure there's no Overlords around. And of course, they're very good at just picking off any units out in the map.
All right, so here come the mutas now. And I want to put out, YuGiOh did do a good job of evacuating most of the Overlords here. We see a lot of Zerg players do a much worse job here. Yeah. He will clean up these two, and I believe there's one more in the upper left that he can still get here.
You know what I love that I'm seeing here, Tasteless?
Yeah.
Is that Soulkey is actually going directly from Mutalisks into Swarm Hosts. And of course, Swarm Hosts, once you get enough, will do outstandingly well against roaches.
And this is quite genius, because after the Zerg gets his third base up, he's going to want to make a lot of roaches and try to crush the other Zerg's base. But with the Swarm Host there, he's going to make that investment of roaches and other attacking units not useful, as a Swarm Host can hold off countless numbers.
Yeah. I do wonder, once he realizes that it's Swarm Host, if he'll go for Baneling speed, because it takes a while for Swarm Host to get effective against just rolling through the Locust with Banelings. And of course, with Cats on his team, there's no question in my mind that YuGiOh knows about that.
Oh yeah, have you watched Cats' stream where he just gets mad Swarm Hosts and turtles it up?
It's pretty fun.
It's pretty fun to watch. So, as you can see now, the Hydralisk Den is on the way. Now, the presence of the Hydras is one of the other factors that makes the mutas no longer very useful. They're simply put too strong. But we'll see. The question is, how helpful can these Hydras really be against all these Locusts? Another thing to keep in mind is that there are actually 3 separate entrances into Soulkey's base here.
Yep.
You got to ask yourself, when you see something like that, how can all the Swarm Hosts defend all those locations?
Well, I think that's what the mutas and Speedlings and Overlord coverage are for, because he has such map dominance. He should be able to see where things are coming from. If he can't see where things are coming from after opening mutas, then, well, yeah, I guess he's in a terrible spot.
That's a very good point. Now, as long as an Infestor doesn't fungal, hold that thought. We have the hatchery getting attacked here, but he does force him out. Yeah, you do make a good point. As long as he doesn't get fungled, the mutas don't get fungled in the middle of the map, and then chain fungled and taken out, yeah, he should be able to know what's going on.
Yeah, well, he's continuing to keep really good map presence with these mutas, knocking out every single Zergling that comes out from anywhere. But, you know, YuGiOh, we do have to say, his upgrades are phenomenal. He's sitting nicely at 2-2, and bam, there it is. Baneling speed, tasteless. He might be able to roll through the Locusts and kill those before any more come out.
He is actually getting offensive here with these swarm hosts. Beginning to move up here. Now, one thing I'm worried about is could there be a potential counterattack? I don't know yet. We don't normally cast CBZs that look like this.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested that he got rid of some of the creep tumors there because, you know, creep tumors and creep really help Locusts, but...
Yeah, you make a very good point. I mean, it's not like that's going to hinder his units there in advancing forward.
Well, right now, here comes all those Locusts, and they're going to start dealing a lot of damage.
Yeah, Soulkey has split up his army, or the Roach is now attacking the drones over here at the second in the main. They're hitting as well, as we can see right here.
Oh, this is awesome, and he actually ran away with all of his swarm hosts after doing this. So this is going to force YuGiOh back and hold him in his base a bit more, while more upgrades and more units finish for Soulkey.
Some absolutely amazing guerrilla tactics here from Soulkey. I am so impressed right now. Look how he avoids the infested Terrans, and then, again, even if these Roaches are taken out, that's a lot of infested Terran energy that is now being put into use and being offensive.
Yeah, Soulkey is playing just brilliantly here, but YuGiOh's counter push is going to be very powerful. A lot of the supply is in those swarm hosts, and have they paid for themselves yet? I don't know that they have, Tasteless.
It looks like he's going to advance forward once again here with all these swarm hosts and mutas. And it looks like we're going to have another attack over here. The supplies right now, a maxed out Soulkey to 168 here for YuGiOh. Our red Zerg looking fantastic right now. YuGiOh in a lot of trouble.
Well, we have a lot of fungal growths going out, and the Locust starting to pick off a few of these infestors. That's always very painful. And he is kind of damaging the whole army. In the meantime, some Banelings with speed have been created, so that can help him bust through that Locust swarm.
Yeah, that's a very good point. He can clean out this Locust Swarm, and before the next set of Locusts come out here, it's possible that YuGiOh's superior upgrades right now on the Roaches and the Hydras may end up breaking Soulkey. This looks like incredible handling here from YuGiOh.
Yeah, look at that. The supplies getting a lot closer from this. And in fact, after all is said and done, they're just about equal in supplies. Great play by YuGiOh so far. He is pushing forward, and their hives are lined up with better upgrades for YuGiOh. He might be able to do it.
And on top of that, over here in the upper right, this base is undefended. If he loses that, he is going to have a major economic deficit here. By the way, a very easy move right now for YuGiOh would be to take the fourth base.
Yeah, taking a fourth could be very important here. But don't forget, his infestors right now have no energy, so a big chunk of his supply is useless at the moment, even though he's made it a lot more even game than it was before.
Yeah, you can't morph those infestors into Archons. There's not much you can do with them for the time being. So it looks like, again, he's going to have to regroup over here. Now, I like what Soulkey's doing here, taking that upper left base. Even if he can't defend that, if it's attacked, it's another location that YuGiOh is going to have to focus on, which allows Soulkey to once again counterattack into YuGiOh's base.
You know what I truly would not mind seeing, Tasteless, is YuGiOh throwing up some of the swarm hosts of his own, because he does have that +2 carapace on top of the +2 attack that both he and Soulkey has. So his Locust would actually be much more worthwhile, and we don't have any sort of Baneling speed upgrade done for Soulkey. You know, he actually would just kind of be behind against that unit composition.
Yeah. That's a very good point, Artosis. And again, here's the counterattacking I was talking about. Sending these Roaches over here, and now sending much more of his army elsewhere right now. He's trying to zone out YuGiOh to keep YuGiOh at an economic deficit, while Soulkey continues to expand and consume the rest of the resources on the map.
That's right, and in the meantime, Soulkey is running around and zoning out the map just so perfectly. This is beautiful to see.
Beautiful.
Oh man, he is really throwing YuGiOh for a loop. What is YuGiOh supposed to do here,
You know,
Tasteless?
it's funny, Artosis, because YuGiOh is doing such a good job at holding off the attack, but I didn't realize that Soulkey was going to be so good at the follow-up.
Yeah,
you know?
You see, YuGiOh had a moment of strategically outplaying Soulkey with those speed Banelings just rolling through the Locust. He strategically outdid him, but here he is being outplayed in other ways at the moment.
That's very true. Now, it looks like we're going to have a full-on engagement here, but the concave always beats the convex. Now pushing his opponent back out right now. Again, Soulkey everywhere with these Roaches, just doing too much damage.
He certainly is, but here we go. YuGiOh with some nice fungal growths coming into the fourth base of Soulkey, if he can take this out cost efficiently, that is going to help him a lot.
All right, YuGiOh has to do some damage and do it now. He will be in the way of the production line here, though, of his opponent. It does look like Soulkey now abandoning the space. However, Soulkey at the same time hitting the second now, taking out a lot of drones.
And you know, right now we actually do have a big drone lead for Soulkey, but he is losing that base, and overall there's a lot more army on the map right now for YuGiOh. So he may be able to parlay this into a victory yet.
He's got to keep pushing forward, but remember, there is not infinite mana there on those infestors. But again, the Swarm host taken out and with ease, now pushing up here. Do we know is the current fourth base here for Soulkey? Is he aware of that? Is YuGiOh aware of that on the map?
I will check that for you, Tasteless. No, he's actually not aware, but nothing's mining there, so it doesn't really matter that much right now.
Well, I believe there's a drone transfer happening this very second.
Yes, I think you are right. But YuGiOh has so much more supply, I think he's actually just going to go kill Soulkey in a minute.
You know, this is one of those games where one player is playing very fancy and the other one is playing, simply put, very solid.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. This looks like it should be the beginning of the end here with YuGiOh.